time. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's meeting of Medway's Full Council. As usual, this meeting is being live streamed via the Council's website, and I would like to welcome everyone too who is watching us online, as well as everyone present here tonight in the gallery. My chaplain, the Reverend Edward Wright, will now lead us in some prayers.
Thank you, and good evening. I looked again recently at a verse in the Bible where Peter highlights the importance of honouring others. It says, "Honour all people." I know that's not always easy by any means, but it's a great attitude to aim at, isn't it? I read of council somewhere, one year the mayor insisted that a prominent empty chair always be left during the meetings, perhaps somewhere over here. And when asked why, he said that chair represents the voice of the people who aren't in the room, the residents we serve. When we speak, when we debate and vote, we must remember the people we're here for and treat one another in a way that gives an example to them. And I might add to those tuning in tonight. A lot of responsibility goes with being a councillor, not only to speak, but to listen, not only in leading, but in serving. And on behalf of the rest of us, as I think I said before, many thanks to you again for being prepared to take on the responsibilities that you have. Honouring others doesn't mean we all agree with them, does it? You could say that's the point of being here this evening, to thrash through the different views as to what's really in the best interest of our communities. We may disagree passionately, but as someone said, you can disagree without being disagreeable. Just as it's important to remember to honour individuals as human beings, it's also right to honour the offices they hold. It says in that verse, it also says, honour the king. It's not an out-of-date tradition, I don't believe, to mark the entrance of the mayor with standing and keeping impressively silent, if I may say so. In honouring him as the first citizen of Medway, we're honouring the representatives of the people, the representative of the people of Medway. And it's appropriate to honour the other offices as well, the leader of the council, the chief executive, the leader of the opposition. None of them are always perfect. No more than no more than I'm always right. Just ask my wife. But respect is due to the offices they hold. I think you could say that how we treat others, whether they be councillors here this evening and council employees, those you represent, probably matters as much as the decisions that are made. And one more thing before praying. That verse also includes the words, fear God. Fear in the sense of holding him in the deepest respect and awe. I know not everyone would want to do that, and that's fine, we're all free. But to be reminded, if you are inclined that way, that it's important to fear God. I have to confess that several circuits in my head have been a bit blown in the last week or so by the events and the speeches attending them in the Middle East. To quote, "A region that will live in peace for all eternity," or "the end of the era of terror and death and the beginning of everlasting harmony." I don't think I need to attribute those. I am sorry, but I have to say I can't believe those quotes. What I can believe is that there is a person who will truly bring peace for all eternity. And any time we choose on an individual level, we can receive that peace, and one day he will bring peace for the whole world. We can decide, if you will, to vote for that source of lasting hope by honouring the one leader who is indeed perfect and who has been given the office of Saviour and Lord by the one who really is in charge. And so for a prayer, feel free to join in with the Amen at the end if that's appropriate for you. Heavenly Father, as we come together before you today, give us humble hearts and thankfulness for the opportunities we have to serve our communities. We ask for your presence in this meeting. Give wisdom and clarity in discussions, and help us to show honour to one another, especially those with whom we disagree. Bless every councillor, and bless all those employed by the council. May their work be fruitful in contributing to the well-being of all in our towns, especially to the vulnerable and those in most need. We pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Edward. I know that you have to leave before the end, so please feel free to go as appropriate. Apologies for absence. Councillor Peake, are there any apologies for absence for this meeting? Sorry, Councillor Peake, I'm sorry, I didn't...
Am I on? Yes, now I'm on. Sorry about that. I had problems with my button. Councillor Coombs is absent. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kemp?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Apologies from Councillor Doe.
Thank you. Councillor Sands? Apologies. Councillor Mrs Turpin? Councillor Vi? Are there any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interests or any other significant interest from members of the council? If so, please clearly describe the nature of your interest if you do declare it. Councillor Cook?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm going to absent myself from item 13. I'm a senior leader in Lee Academy's Trust and I have business dealings with most of the schools mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs Turpin?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I have a DPI with regards to the motions. Motion B, I am an HMO landlord, so I will remove myself from the debate.
Thank you. Any other member? Councillor Perfect?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have an OSI in relation to item 13, as I am a member of the Beyond Schools Trust, which operates Fort Pitt Grammar School, and therefore I'll leave the room for this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Those members who have declared an interest, please note that the room at the entrance to the hall is reserved for you during those items. Is it agreed that I sign the minutes of the meeting held on the 17th of July 2025 as an accurate record? Thank you. I would like to open my announcements by asking Councillor Nesterov to come forward to the top table with Camelia Xavier Quijota from the Medway Culture Club and David Stokes from the Halpin Charitable Foundation Nucleus Arts so they can be presented with their cheques. Mariam raised £9,850 for his chosen charities last year, and each charity will receive £4,925, recognising and supporting their invaluable work in our local community. Thank you. We have come now to the end of Baby Loss Awareness Week, a time to remember the babies whose lives were far too short and to acknowledge the profound impact their loss has on parents and families. This week reminds us of the importance of compassion, understanding and support for those who grieve quietly among us. You will notice pink and blue ribbons on each member's desk. This has kindly been arranged by Councillor MacDonald. A simple but meaningful gesture of remembrance and solidarity with all those affected by baby loss. As we close this week of reflection, let us hold in our hearts the message it carries, that every life, no matter how brief, is valued, loved, and never forgotten. Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Moving on, I'd like to thank those who were able to attend my charity curry night at Spice Fusion a couple of weeks back, and also like to take the opportunity to remind members of the next two mayoral events taking place to help fundraise for this year's charities, Caring Hands and Slide Away. On the 29th of November, there will be a Christmas event at our beautiful Eastgate House with a live theatrical production of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, and on 29th of January, we have Panto at the Oast House Theatre in Rainham. As usual, the production this year is Robin Hood. For both of those events, there will be an opportunity to meet with the cast afterwards and refreshments. As always, further information and tickets are available from my office. Now, members will be aware that there are some proposals for consideration later tonight on changes to our council rules. One of the proposals to make permanent is the number of speakers on motions. However, we still need to agree the following as a suspension to council rules this evening, namely, to limit the number of speakers per motion to the proposer and seconder, plus up to 10% of each group, rounded up as follows: Labour and Cooperative Group 4, Conservative Group 2, Independent Group 1, Reform UK Group 1, Independent Members 1. The same number of speakers will be allowed for each amendment to a motion. Is that agreed, members? Thank you. Please can I remind all members, particularly those who choose to stand up when speaking, to speak clearly into the microphones to ensure people in the public gallery and watching the live stream can hear properly, and can members ensure that written copies of any amendments are brought up to the top table first. And finally, I would also ask, as we always do, please members, to only interrupt another member while they are speaking if there is a genuine point of order or point of personal explanation to be made. I call upon the Leader of the Council for any announcements.
Thank you very much indeed, Mayor Clark, and I wholeheartedly join you in your announcements this evening. I look forward to joining you in January for a pantomime. Hopefully we won't have one this evening. I just wanted to raise two announcements as Leader of the Council. Firstly, I wanted to put on record my thanks to those councillors across the political spectrum who reached out following the disgraceful incident at 73 Maidstone Road, the Labour Party office in Rochester and Strood, in what is the 4th anniversary week of the appalling murder of Sir David Amis. The fact that we have political violence here in Medway, I know no Democrat will tolerate. So I thank those who reached out, and I thank Kent Police for their ongoing investigation into that incident. Secondly, Mayor Clark, I wanted to take an opportunity to say thank you to one of our fantastic assistant directors, Mark Brethwick, who will be stepping down from the council in due course. Mark has been a tremendous servant for the people of Medway. We often talk about people going from the ground up in organisations like ours. Mark joined the council in 2002 as an apprentice, aged 16, and he is now our assistant director. And his breadth of knowledge across the council, his respect from councillors, officers, and the public at large, and indeed our stakeholder partners, is without doubt. So I'm sure all councillors will want to wish Mark the very best for his future, and we thank him wholeheartedly for his service to the people of Medway. Thank you.
Councillor Lawrence, you should come in on that.
Mr Mayor, thank you. Mr Mayor, can I associate myself in the Conservative group with the Leader's comments on Mark Brethwick's retirement? Mr Mayor, if you would indulge me for a minute or two, I'd like to add a few comments of my own. I've only known Mark since being elected in May 23, and more recently I had more direct contact with him in my role as a shadow spokesman. In my dealings with Mark, you were immediately aware of his professionalism and passion for housing and the other areas that were in his responsibility within the council. Mark's willingness to answer my questions unambiguously and free of jargon was of immense help, as his willingness to listen to my points, however bad they were made. Mark made time in his diary to meet to discuss individual points of policy and to provide a briefing. And Mark had that ability to change minds, calmly going through the issue or point of discussion. I once challenged him on why the council should own and operate its own housing stock, and Mark's response was principled and unequivocal, and a position that I accepted as pragmatic and reasonable, and one that I'm happy to support. The council is losing from its ranks a star. I would have enjoyed working with Mark as a portfolio holder in a future Conservative administration. From this side of the chamber, we send our best wishes to Mark and his family, and I hope that Mark finds a way to use his talents in a less stressful environment, as I'm sure he has still a lot more to give. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Chief Executive, you will take the best wishes of the Chamber to Mark. Yeah, thank you. Are there any members of the public that wish to hand in a petition? If so, please come straight to the microphone and read out the title of the petition. No? Okay. Please could I ask, is there any? No. Okay. And will any councillors now indicate if they wish to hand in a petition? No, we're good on that one. We skip now to public questions. We have 40 minutes to deal with the 3 public questions on the agenda. Only public questioners attending in person will be able to ask supplementary questions. Please, would those who are asking questions come to the microphone at the front of the public gallery when asked, and may I remind those who are called upon to answer questions that those responses must not exceed 3 minutes. I would like to advise the public questioners that they may each ask one short supplementary question, which should be a concise question. Long preambles and statements will not be permitted. Members' answers to supplementary questions, again, may not exceed 3 minutes. If there are any questions not dealt with this evening, they will receive written responses instead. John Baker, I believe, has sent a representative to ask his question. Thank you. Rob Bursey, please will you come up to ask John's question? Oh, sorry, Mr. Bursey, yeah. Apologies, Mr. Bursey, we seem to be having a sound issue here.
Now, is that better? Okay, right, here we go again. Sorry about that. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. John Baker wishes to ask, while the draft local plan acknowledges the need to consider Article 4 directions, it offers no firm commitment or timeline. With other local authorities actively adopting Article 4 protections, there is now a growing risk that developers will increasingly target areas like Medway where those safeguards are absent. This could result in the loss of family homes, disruption to community cohesion, and irreversible changes to residential neighbourhoods. Will the Council therefore urgently commit to accelerating the Article 4 direction process as a standalone priority rather than deferring it to the broader local plan timeline? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Curry, would you please respond?
Having problems. Is that better? Good. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your question. While there is no reference in the draft local plan to Article 4 directions, I am assuming that your reference is to houses in multiple occupation. Traditionally, Article 4 directions in relation to HMOs have been brought forward in university towns and related to specific areas within those towns and cities with close proximity to the universities. We are aware that recently there has been an increase in the number of HMOs within Medway and urban areas. This is a specific reaction to the housing crisis that the country and South East is facing, with availability and cost of either buying or renting a property. HMOs do have an important role to play in the housing market, and indeed there are many that provide a good standard of affordable accommodation for key workers and young professionals, which are much needed in the Medway and other areas. This does need to be balanced against the protection of also much needed family homes provision. In this respect, the existing and emerging local plans do have policies to guide when HMOs will be acceptable. In addition, HMOs of 5 tenants, which form 2 or more households and use shared facilities, require mandatory licensing under the Housing Act of 2004. This function is undertaken by the private sector housing team in housing. Following an initial tenure intelligence activity, a feasibility study was completed earlier this year to review the viability and capacity to introduce additional licensing. Additional licensing is a discretionary scheme that a local authority can introduce following due council process and formal public consultation. Additional licensing gives local authorities extra powers under the Housing Act of 2004 to designate areas within their district as subject to additional licensing, which allows for regulation of smaller HMOs. Additional licensing will require landlords within a designated area where 3 or more persons form 2 or more households who share basic amenities to have a license. In relation to planning, it is accepted that properties over a certain age can be converted to HMOs for no more than 6 people living independently but sharing facilities like bathrooms, kitchens and living areas without requiring planning permission. Similar to the university towns I mentioned earlier, some authorities are now doing work to support bringing in an Article 4 direction in part of their areas. It must be noted that a general Article 4 covering the whole of a local authority area could not be justified, and we would not get through the Article 4 approval process. The process for Article 4 directions is clearly set out in legislation and national planning guidelines, and must be based on evidence and justification and consultation with affected property owners and the public. But it is recognised that such directions can be used to maintain control over developments that could impact the character and quality of neighbourhoods. I can therefore commit to producing the necessary evidence which will be needed to support and justify Article 4 directions in parts of Medway, and for this activity to run alongside work on the local plan.
Thank you, Councillor. And slight apologies, members. We didn't have the clock running, so there won't be the same latitude later on in the evening. Thank you. William Burville, please come up to ask your question.
Good evening, everyone. Given that I have actually previously asked this question in good faith to the Labour leader at the flag event in Rainham on Tuesday, my question is this. Can the Medway Labour leader clarify whether, like the Labour Party at conference, they believe the 88,997 residents here in Medway who voted leave are racists, fascists, bigots, or people who hate their country? Thank you.
Councillor Maple, would you please respond?
Thank you, Mayor Clark, and thank you, Mr Burville, for your question. Again, it is the second time I've heard that question this week. It must be really grinding your gears if you're asking it for a second time. As I said in Rainham, the answer is simply no, because it's not true. That statement is simply untrue. But I will give you some examples of people who I presume voted to leave and have got that track record as individuals. Perhaps someone like Councillor Mark Broadhurst, who was expelled from Reform UK following social media activity which included a meme suggesting, and I apologise for this is a direct quote, Hitler would have been a legend if he'd chosen to exterminate Muslims instead of Jews. I would say that's offensive language from somebody who probably voted to leave. They're also a Reform UK member. Perhaps someone like Daniel Taylor, elected to KCC for Reform, who's been suspended and charged by Kent Police for making threats to his wife. I suspect he voted to leave, and he's a member of Reform UK. Perhaps Jamie McIver, the head of local government for Reform and a councillor in Essex, who was expelled by the Conservative Party, quite rightly, for sending an unsolicited picture of his private parts, which is a criminal offence. I suspect Jamie voted to leave, and he's a member of Reform. And the final one is Christopher Hesp, elected to KCC for Reform. He posted extreme images of Paul Golding, published by Paul Golding, leader of Britain First, Keith Woods, an Irish white nationalist. He's called for Tommy Robinson to be knighted and shared memes of Adolf Hitler. I suspect Christopher Hesp voted to leave, and he's a member of Reform UK. Thank you.
William, would you like to ask a short supplementary question?
Well, yeah, I'll go for it. I know you're talking about Reform and they're racist, but let's not be honest. Labour have also got politicians that have been...
Could I have the question, please, Mr.
Well, the question is, you can't just say everyone's racist if they're in Reform. Every party have got different people involved.
Sorry, Mr. Bowe, I must press you if there is a
No, thank
question.
you.
OK, thank you very much. Alan Wells, please come up to ask your question.
Good evening. In this 80th year since the formation of the United Nations, I am asking this question on behalf of Medway United Nations Association. While the United Nations doesn't directly influence a local plan's content, local councils are encouraged to align their plans with the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, as local governments are considered best placed to link global goals to local communities. All of the SDGs have targets that are directly or indirectly related to the daily work of local and regional governments. Local governments are policymakers, catalysts of change, and the level of government best placed to link the global goals with local communities. I would therefore like to ask the following. What impact or influence has the UN's SDGs had on the decisions the Council has made in aligning its policies and priorities for localising the 17 global goals, particularly in areas like climate change and social deprivation?
Thank you. Councillor Maple, would you please respond?
Thank you, Mayor Clark, and thank you, Mr. Wells, for your question. And thank you for asking it on behalf of Medway United Nations Association. I'm really proud that we'll be flying from Gun Wharf, the United Nations flag, next Friday. Sadly, I can't be there myself, but I hope it's yet another successful flag raising appropriately on a flagpole at our civic headquarters. To move to the direction of your question, SDGs are critically important, and I could spend all night speaking about how they directly influence policy on local plan and other matters. Let me just highlight a few. On climate change, Medway Climate Change Action Plan sets the ambition of net zero by 2050 and lays out a set of priority themes. This strategy also explicitly links to the regional Kent and Medway energy and low emission strategy, which addresses broader regional action on emissions, air quality and fuel poverty. On spatial planning and local plan, the Medway Local Plan includes explicit references to meeting the challenge of climate change, promoting sustainable design and transport, and ensuring new developments are resilient to future climate pressures. The plan also introduces and includes water efficiency, sustainable drainage strategies, acknowledging the pressures of climate change on water supply, and treats climate change as a key vulnerability, especially for flood risk, sea level rise, drought, and shifting rainfall patterns. There are many, many more as well, and the last one I want to highlight in particular is actually how the SDGs align very closely with the Marmot Place programme that we are on. We've declared our ambition to be a Marmot Place in April this year. This status recognises that health and health inequalities are mostly shaped by the social determinants of health, and the place takes action to improve health and reduce health inequalities. We've set out an ambition to halve health inequalities in Medway over the next 10 years, working on the 8 Marmot principles, which are complementary to the 17 United Nations SDG goals. And I hope that gives you reassurance in just some of the ways that SDGs are impacting positively on the programme here in Medway. Thank you.
Alan, would you like to ask a short supplementary question?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Come on now to agenda item 8. Oh.
Just point of order, Mayor Clark, 2 points of order. The sound volume is a little quiet, so I've got several members who are struggling to hear a little bit. So if we could, if we need to take a 5-minute pause to reassess that, that may be worth doing before we move into the main event of many items. And also, there's no clock on the screen, which certainly I use, and if it's not there, I'll just keep talking. Thank you. And to say, if we need to take a short adjournment, that may be appropriate so that everyone can hear appropriately. Thank you.
Okay. Members, are we comfortable if we just pause for 2 minutes while tech support on it, really? Thank you. Thank you. I'm just testing 1, 2, 3. We will continue now, please, if we could just settle down. Apologies for that. Okay, agenda item 8, motions. And I call upon Councillor Tegen to propose the motion at item A.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, we table this motion not out of partisanship, but out of duty. Duty to our residents, our staff, and the long-term financial health of Medway. Mr. Mayor, we are facing a moment of reckoning. The figures are stark. A 38.7 million budget shortfall for 2024-2025, revised to 26.2 million for 2025 to 2026, with further deficit forecast into the late 2020s. This is not a temporary blip. It is a structural crisis. To bridge this gap, Mr. Mayor, the administration has turned to exceptional financial support, over 18 million borrowed to fund day-to-day services. Let us be clear, Mr. Mayor, this is borrowing to pay for revenue costs. It is equivalent of using a credit card to buy groceries. It may keep the lights on today, Mr. Mayor, but it leaves us exposed tomorrow. And while we borrow to survive, our residents are being asked to pay more and receive less. A near maximum council tax increase of 4.994%, coupled with cuts to non-statutory services and rising fees for leisure, parking, and community facilities. This is not sustainable. It is not fair. We acknowledge the pressures, particularly in social care, but overspending in these areas continues year after year with limited evidence of effective cost control. Reserves meant for emergencies are being drained to plug routine overspends. Promised savings from transformational initiatives like Medway 2.0 have yet to materialize. Procurement reforms have not delivered the impact we were told to expect. Mr. Mayor, the medium-term financial outlook offers little comfort. It shows continued reliance on government bailouts and speculative spending reviews. There is no clear pathway to financial independence. That is why this motion matters. This motion is not about assigning blame. It is about demanding better. It calls for a deliverable plan to restore fiscal discipline, rebuild reserve, and protect frontline services. It urges transparency, value for money, cross-party collaboration. Mr. Mayor, we owe it to our residents to be honest about the risk. We owe it to our staff to provide certainty. And we owe it to the future generation to act responsibly. Mr. Mayor, this is a moment for leadership, a moment to reject the politics of crisis management and embrace the principle of sound governance. I commend this motion to the Council and urge colleagues across the chamber to support it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Is that supported? Do you wish to speak now or reserve the right?
I reserve my right to speak later.
Thank you. We go to debate. Councillor Murray.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. My computer's playing up, just bear with. Oh dear. Yeah, well, I'll have to stop the clock, please, while I...
Shall I move to the next member, Mrs. Murray?
Yes, please, and it's Councillor Murray to you, thank you.
May not come back. Councillor Galvin, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is very concerning that Medway Council is piling up debt at a time when borrowing costs are increasing. Today's 10-year Public Works Loan Board rate is 5.06%. Last July, it was 4.77%. The 30-year rate is now, today, 6.01%. Last July, it was 4.69%. The reason for that rise is that the market believes the government is borrowing too much, and that will increase inflation, which it has done. In June last year, inflation was 2%. It's now 3.8%. Last November, Rachel Reeves stated, "We're not going to be coming back with more tax increases or indeed more borrowing. We now need to live within the means that we have set ourselves." Very good words, aren't they? We'll see what happens next month. Despite all the talk of growth, we cannot rely on that to help us. The IMF has warned that higher inflation means growth per person will be just 0.5% in 2026. That compares with 1.8 in the US, 1.2 in Japan, and 0.9% in the Eurozone. That will mean that we will have the lowest growth in the G7. The need to live within our means is made more urgent as many prominent financial experts are saying that the next economic crisis is just around the corner. Also, the traditional buyers of gilt, which fund the PWLB, which were pension funds, insurance companies that provide annuities, they're now selling gilts to pay pensions. Many gilts are now purchased by China, hedge funds and venture capitalist companies who certainly do not have the interests of the UK at heart. So it's not just isolated in Medway itself. We are going down a road that the government is going down as well. We are making a terrible future for our residents. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Maple.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. So this is the equivalent of the boy who runs into the sweet shop, steals a packet of sweets, and then comes back and says, "Can I talk to you about buying a CCTV camera for those people stealing the sweets?" You stole the sweets. When we took over the council, when the people of Medway gave us the privilege to serve as the administration, we knew we were inheriting a financial mess. We knew that because of the reports that were published by this council. We knew that the year we were currently in at that point, the financial year, the budget was based on using reserves and then needed more reserves because of the spending without taking any difficult choices that the previous administration did. We've been getting on with that. We have a plan. We've published it. It's open and transparent. We bought in SITFA when we didn't have to. We chose to. We published that. We had them back because of using exceptional financial support, and I absolutely recognise we're using that, along with dozens of other councils, and we published that. Again, we didn't have to publish any of those publicly. We chose to. And I mentioned that others are using EFS across the political spectrum, across the type of council. And of course, why is that? Our SITFA report, our second one in particular, is clear. We're making progress. There's more to do, but we're making progress. The reason so many councils, and I suspect more potentially, may end up in that situation in the short term, is because we had more than a decade of austerity. And we know the reason why, but I'll tell you the reason why. Because we had a 91% cut in our revenue support grant since 2010. Not my words. They're not my words. They're the guy who was here before me. And he was right. That's why we're in the situation we're in now. So we're having budget meetings. Literally, I was in a budget meeting with colleagues today looking carefully at the priorities and the choices we're going to have to put forward to our community next February. So I appreciate entirely, again, colleagues will know, I've sat in those chairs for a number of years. I don't intend to sit in them ever again for this administration. So I appreciate entirely why this motion has come forward. And Habib, I welcome the fact of scrutiny in your role as chair, Councillor Tijan of the Business Support Committee. Again, something that never happened under the previous administration, opposition councillor chairing a scrutiny meeting. So I will not be voting for this motion. And I will be continuing to work with my colleagues, Cabinet and the wider Council to get our books back to a place they need to be and work hard for the people of Medway every single day. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Murray.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clark, and thanks to for that cheery sermon that we had from Councillor Golphin earlier. I'd like to believe this motion was well-intentioned, but given the half-truths and ludicrous assumptions it contains, I'm not supporting it. Unlike the previous Tory administration, who never took any credible external budget advice, as Councillor Maple has said, we have acted on SIPFA's recommendations, and we do have a clear plan for financial sustainability. We've moved away from the backroom, secretive style of budgeting preferred by our predecessors and introduced a much more open and transparent system that increases ownership of the budget across the council with the FIT plan. We've widened access and given a much greater number of staff the opportunity to understand how budget constraints impact their work and welcome their ideas for further efficiencies. Instead of making random cuts like the disgraced 2019 raid on adult social care, we've invested to save and will continue to do so, with technology improvements across the council a firm part of that undertaking. The Tory mantra of cut first, think later has been abandoned in favour of using intelligence and research to predict demand. So, thanks but no thanks, Councillor Tijan, to the unmissable offer of helping us manage the budget. In your administration, after years of letting the Blair and Brown government do the heavy lifting, that bought Medway a university campus, a new college, great schools, health estate, funding to get Rochester Riverside started, Sure Start, and, as soon as you got the chance, you were slaves to the damaging austerity regime that followed the 2010 election. Gleefully dismantling services, leaving our towns exposed to predatory development because you couldn't get a local plan together, plundered reserves, took every opportunity to blame anyone else, while tumbleweed blew around Innovation Park Medway, staff didn't have a pay rise for years, and the only infrastructure idea offered to the people of Medway was a concrete runway at Rochester Airport, which set to cost £4.3 million to please a few flyers who didn't live here and never got built. You haven't supported our budget, which contradicts the last pious paragraph of your motion, and Councillor Tijan's sermon to go with it, preferring to whine on the sidelines while another one of your dwindling number lumbered across the chamber to join the Farage fanboys and fantasists. Next time you do a motion on budgeting, look in the mirror and get your own house in order.
Councillor Pearce, please.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we're talking about spending priorities, I think it's important not to forget that it was this administration that cut free swimming for children and senior citizens, and we must keep highlighting this shameful and regressive decision. The people of these Medway towns and rural villages won't forget. Therefore, myself and residents are right to be angry when we see priorities and wasted spending such as hundreds of thousands of pounds on unwanted AMPR traffic management schemes, school streets that will just move traffic and parking elsewhere, and now, of course, failed local government reorganisation bids, which have already been rejected. And then there's red routes, Mr. Mayor, particularly in Raynham, a scheme costing nearly £1 million of taxpayers' cash, and the red paint itself is already wearing off the road, literally. This is absolutely ridiculous, and this administration can't even find a decent tin of paint. What hope have we got? Can the Leader of the Council please confirm if taxpayers are going to be charged for the repainting of the red routes, if we can have that confirmed tonight? So, I do support the motion by the Conservative group. And I do believe the days of blaming the last administration or the last government are well and truly over, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lawrence, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think, Councillor Murray, you're using the spend first, worry about it later mantra. Mr. Mayor, we are here again to raise our concerns that the Council has yet to get control of its finances. A third year of EFS borrowing is looking extremely likely, adding to the Council's blooming debt pile at a time of very high government borrowing cost. The tragedy is that the impact on services and decision-making is obvious. Cuts of £1 million to our green services budget mean that our green areas are not getting the attention they deserve. I've never seen Medway looking shabbier since I moved here in 2000. Penny pinching has seen an important community asset at Hempstead Library transferred to a private operator for the next 7 years as a nursery. Bringing in a school street scheme outside Fairview Primary School to fine hard-working parents dropping off their children for school on the pretense of air quality and pupil safety when no evidence of an issue was ever presented. And more importantly, ignoring the views of the community because we are so desperate for cash. On top of this, the council, led by Councillor Maple, now seems to be taking an ideological approach to spending, with a proposal for a care home to be built and operated by the council at a total cost of around about 150 million quid over 50 years, by which time, no doubt, we'd have had to have rebuilt it a few times. The apparent direction of travel with some of our procurement leads me to a sneaking suspicion that this administration wants to create a direct labour organisation. There appears to be a strong vein of vanity running through this Labour administration, with Councillor Maple stamping his feet and throwing his toys out of the pram to get his LGR plan through by any means necessary and at any cost. This Conservative group put forward a budget in February that would have reduced the reliance on EFS from 18 million to 11 million. With the Herculean work done by officers in finding more savings, if our budget had been passed, we'd be very close to a balanced budget. When the Conservatives left power in May 23, this council had £16 million of reserves and no need to go cap in hand to the government for borrowing to balance the budget. Today, our borrowing has increased by £139 million in the last year alone, and the Labour group seem happy to make the council's inability to run a balanced budget an obligation of residents living in other parts of North Kent in the upcoming LGR. The only thing worse than this Labour administration would be one run by Reform, a party that's either silent or in chaos, a party with no soul, no beliefs, no policies and no talent. Mr. Mayor, I implore all members to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lemes, please.
No soul and no talent, okay. Well, the Medway Towns Reform Group will always support sensible economic motions aimed at the proper running of council finances. And indeed we do so because we can see sadly bad examples on both sides by the two main parties. Take, for example, what Labour did in Bradford, where 2 years ago they raised council tax by 15%, and then recently, last year, upped it by another 10%. The Conservative Party that runs Slough last year raised it by 10% and intend to raise it by 10% more again. So not much difference then. But contrast that to the KCC-run council by Reform. Already, they have saved £2.5 million from transport budget.
Members, thank you.
£5.5 million, which they save from renegotiating the debt, which equates to £1,820 per day, £200,000 plus with a pay cut to council allowances, £50,000 saved by scrapping the crisis grants immediately, £14 million saved by keeping the council chamber in Sessions House and not pursuing vanity projects in new buildings, £32 million saved over 4 years by undeclaring the climate emergency and, crucially, unlocking the procurement rules so that you can actually procure services by bidders who want to do it for the cheapest price, not for the wokest quota. £7.5 million saved by 2030 by scrapping the transition of KCC vehicles fleet to electric vehicles, and £1.5 million saved by bringing children's homes back into KCC ownership. In the first 100 days of the 100 reform councillors that are running administrations across the UK, they have already saved collectively £100 million of taxpayers' money. So if you want to see councils run properly and finances under control, you know where to go.
Thank you, Councillor. Come back now to Councillor. Oh, we got one. Oh, we have a late thing. Councillor Brown.
Sorry, another history lesson in this chamber. It seems it's always me that has to tell either Tory members or ex-Tory members that actually we're in Medway. I told the same member that Medway existed outside his ward in previous life when he was wearing a different colour tie. We're not in KCC, we're in Medway. We're making responsible and caring decisions around service provision and not just cuts. And the other thing about it is, Councillor Lammas, if you're going to read out some facts, at least let them be facts.
Thank you. Go now to Councillor Hackwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I support this motion, which addresses one of the most profound challenges currently facing this council, the looming crisis of Medway's financial sustainability. This motion correctly recognises the serious financial pressures confronting all local authorities across the nation, including our own. We acknowledge the complex challenges inherent in delivering vital services amid constrained resources and rising demand. However, acknowledgement is not enough. Our primary concern, starkly laid out in this motion, is the continued reliance on permission for exceptional financial support, or EFS, from central government, merely to sustain Medway's day-to-day operations. This is a temporary sticking plaster, not a long-term strategy. The figures are alarming and require immediate action. In the financial year 24-25, the Council borrowed £20.2 million via the EFS mechanism. For this year, the plan is to borrow a further 18.48. Critically, the medium-term borrowing projection in the outlook for 2030 stands at a monumental £191 million. We must understand this devastating impact of turning the day-to-day running costs into long-term debt. Interest is being charged on the amount borrowed, reducing the resources available for frontline services. Furthermore, increasing debt for routine spending reduces the capital available for investment in Medway as a place. And looking ahead, the motion highlights huge injustice. With local government reorganisation on the horizon, Medway's EFS debt will become the obligation of residents currently living in other authorities. The Council expresses deep concern without clear achievable plan will be dependent on EFS for at least further 2 or 3 years. We cannot pretend that this initiatives like Medway 2.0 or procurement reforms have delivered the expected savings needed to escape this trap. Medway's financial resilience, our public service delivery and our well-being to our staff are all at risk without decisive action. Financial responsibility is a shared duty, not reserved for one group. Therefore, the mandate is clear. This Council must resolve today to call upon the Cabinet to publish a detailed and deliverable plan to achieve financial sustainability without reliance on EFS. This plan must be rigorous and transparent. Urge the Cabinet to prioritise the genuine value for money of strict cost containment in all future budgetary decisions. Commit to a cross-party to placing Medway's finances on a stable and responsible footing. We must guide all our future decisions by prudence, compassion and long-term vision. I urge all members to support this motion and demand a robust plan Medway residents deserve. Thank you.
Well said.
Thank you, Councillor. Come back now to the proposer, Councillor Tijan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thank members for their contribution, and I must respectfully challenge the premise of the opposition reason for not supporting this motion. The administration. Thank you. The motion is not about political point scoring, Mr. Mayor. It's about financial accountability. It's about protecting residents from the consequences of repeated borrowing, rising taxes, and service reductions. It's about ensuring Medway Council does not drift further into the cycle of crisis management. To suggest that this motion is not of substance, I found very, very strange. The facts are clear, Mr. Mayor. 26.2 million deficit, over 80 million in exceptional financial support, and a medium-term financial outlook that offers no credible path to sustainability. These are not political point-scoring figures. These are public truths. The amendment, the opposition today appear to dilute the urgency of the issue. They try to use languages to soften and obscure the risk and offer comfort where clarity is needed. That may serve for political convenience, but it doesn't serve the people of Medway. We cannot afford to dress up financial instability as resilience. We cannot afford to reframe borrowing as strategy, Councillor Maple. And we certainly cannot afford to sit here and pretend that we haven't got a problem. Mr. Mayor, we certainly cannot afford to carry on and ignore acting responsibly. This motion calls for transparency, discipline, and a deliverable plan. I don't see what's wrong with having a deliverable plan. It invites cross-party collaboration. I don't see what's wrong with that. It does not assign blame. It demands better. If we cannot unite around that, then we must ask ourselves, what are we here to defend? Mr. Mayor, I urge members to rethink and put the residents of Medway first and consider supporting this motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We come to the vote on the motion. Can I ask for a show, please, of those who are in favour? Thank you. And those against? The motion is lost. Come now to motion B. I call upon Councillor Finch to propose the motion. Thank you. Apologies, yes, members have to exit. Please hold a moment, Councillor Finch. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Councillor Finch, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I begin, I'd like to thank Councillor Turpin for taking the time to share her experience with me. With more than 25 years working in the private rented sector, she understands the pressures on housing affordability better than most. She's rightly concerned that tighter controls could risk pushing up costs for younger or lower income tenants. But that is not what this motion seeks to do. Our aim is not to reduce the supply of affordable homes, but to make sure that the homes we do have are safe, well managed and located in the right places, rather than whole streets being lost to poor quality conversions. A balanced housing market protects both residents and responsible landlords. Across Medway, we're seeing more and more family homes converted into houses in multiple occupation. Some provide much needed accommodation, but in too many streets, the scale and speed of conversions are undermining community balance, parking and local services. Residents tell us they feel their neighbourhoods are changing faster than anyone planned for. This isn't a single party concern. In fact, our own MP for Gillingham and Rainham has recently written to the Council calling for urgent action, including the use of Article 4 directions and a supplementary planning document to manage HMOs sensibly. Her letter sets out exactly what many of us have been saying. While HMOs have a role, uncontrolled clustering can damage cohesion, reduce family housing and strain local infrastructure. National planning rules mean that smaller HMOs of up to 6 unrelated people can be created without planning permission. That makes it almost impossible for this council to weigh up local impacts before the conversion happens. Other authorities, from Lewisham to Burnley, have already acted by introducing targeted Article 4 directions, removing those automatic rights in high-pressure areas. They've coupled that with additional licensing for smaller HMOs so that standards and safety are properly enforced. Our own Cabinet will discuss new proposals for additional and selective licensing next week. This motion builds on that work. It asks the Council to back the principle of targeted Article 4 directions, informed by the same evidence being gathered for licensing. It also proposes developing a supplementary planning document so that once Article 4 is in place, everyone, including residents, officers and landlords, know exactly what the planning expectations are. Residents have made it clear that they want a planning and enforcement system that's transparent, consistent and fair. They're tired of conversions slipping through under permitted development or complaints going round in circles. This motion isn't about bureaucracy, it's about accountability. It complements the forthcoming Cabinet work on licensing, but it also calls for an enforcement-first approach, making sure that the rules we already have are applied properly before the new ones are added. It's about giving Medway the same powers other councils already use to protect housing quality and community character. It's about supporting residents who take pride in their streets and neighbourhoods. Mr Mayor, I urge members across all parties to support this motion so that Medway can move from watching the problem grow to actually managing it, with clear local rules that put our communities first. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that supported? Councillor Lammas, do you wish to speak now or reserve the right?
Reserve the right, please.
Thank you. Come to debate. Any member? Are you?
Motion.
Okay. I'm advised an amendment is forthcoming. Too small. Okay, thank you. Councillor Weller-Prenter.
Will that change to 5 minutes, Councillor Clark? So I'll get 3 minutes.
No.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. This amendment...
No,
oh, should it be 5? As a mover of an amendment? Okay. This amendment demonstrates the work already started and ongoing by this Labour administration to address standards and conditions in the private rented sector. Councillor Finch will be aware that I joined with my former ward colleague, the MP for Gillingham and Rainham, in a statement connected with the letter he speaks of. I'll remind colleagues it was Labour's Housing Act in 2004 that introduced licensing to improve standards in the private rented accommodation. There is, of course, a requirement for the provision of a variety of housing options to meet different needs here in Medway, and this does include HMOs where appropriate. However, the rate and scale of HMOs in certain areas is growing. 3-bedroom family homes, which could otherwise house young families or first-time buyers, are being converted into 6 bedrooms or more, sometimes up to 9 bedrooms, and that is just not acceptable. The conversion of these family homes is sadly only possible as a result of the 2010 Conservative and Lib Dem coalition decision to extend permitted development rights. Although maybe unintended, this action undermined local control and is something we are feeling the impact of now more than ever with the loss of much-needed family housing when our pressures are continuing to grow. We are seeing the cumulative impact of this type of housing disproportionately concentrated in small areas of our towns, which can place a strain on local services such as parking and waste collection. We're also aware of concerns about the quality and standards of some conversions, particularly when properties are being adapted to accommodate the maximum number of tenants possible. This can in turn create pressures for public health teams, enforcement services and local policing. Although Reform have just woken up to the fact, it's been a long-term pledge of Medway Labour that there is a need for a licensing scheme to be here in place in Medway. I want to reassure Reform councillors here that this administration is already working on it. We have already undertaken a feasibility study to support the implementation of additional and selective licensing, and you will have seen, as Councillor Finch said, there is a report that I will be bringing to Cabinet next week. So this is not overnight. This is already being taken to Cabinet to seek approval of formally commencing the consultation process for the recommended additional and selective licensing schemes. This administration acts on evidence and will be working on the findings of an evidence-led review and will take the appropriate action. Any actions we take will be evidence-based and not just populist one-liners. As I've already stated, this has been a long-term pledge by Medway Labour, unlike Reform, who appear to be jumping on the bandwagon in yet another attempt at division within our communities. Our motives have and will always be to improve the health and well-being of Medway residents by raising standards for those renting not just in HMOs but in all private rental accommodation, and to continue to build safe and cohesive communities here in Medway. I urge members to support. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that supported? Councillor Curry, do you wish to speak now or reserve?
Thank you very much, Mayor Clark. Rather than revisiting the details of the licensing and Article 4 process, which I referred to in my response to Mr Baker's question, I would just like colleagues to read that response when they have the opportunity. As my colleague has just said, it has always been a policy of ours to introduce licensing measures and the control of HMOs. Housing standards are a fundamentally important part of our community, and to many people who are living, especially to many people who are living in very poor conditions, and especially in my own ward in Luton, where there are many issues. As colleagues are aware, we are taking action on this and don't need Reform to tell us what to do to look after those most in need in our community, especially as their leader is more interested in earning cash in the USA than caring for his own constituents. This same leader is also open to ways of charging in the NHS. They are a party that don't believe in the delivery of affordable, and I stress the word affordable, carbon-free energy to our homes, but instead want to leave it in the hands of the oil and gas companies. I'm happy to second this amended motion, and I call on colleagues across the Council to support our amendments and recognise and support the actions we are taking. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. A reminder to members, we're now speaking to the amendment. I have one member showing. Councillor Lawrence on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, the Conservative Group are happy to support the amendment moved by Councillor Prenter. There is a clear need to ensure that the proliferation of HMOs, particularly in Gillingham and Chatham, Many councils, including Conservative one, have used authority-wide Article 4 directions to counter the unintended consequences of permitted development rights. But I think we should be clear that permitted development has delivered 94,000 new homes since 2022, and it's repurposed large numbers of obsolete assets, including rundown offices on brownfield sites, and has added an element of speed and certainty to the process. It has provided homes for students, young professionals and the homeless. Whilst it's easy to criticise permitted development, I note that in opposition Labour were highly critical and vowed to repeal the legislation, yet in power they seem to have backtracked. Is this because their own approach to planning is similar in nature? And I wonder whether the change in planning law will avoid the same pitfalls that have obviously come forward with permitted development. I would raise the question, if the administration is so concerned about the proliferation of HMOs, is whether licensing is the right way to go, because it's bureaucratic, it takes time, people fall between the cracks. Is it going to solve the problem? And I'm wondering whether the Article 4 determination is the way to go. My only concern with the amendment is it's a little bit light. It talks, about motion seems very sedate, welcoming the ongoing work, requesting and noting and reaffirming. If we want to bring forward an Article 4 direction, you have made the case, let's get on with it, and the Conservative group will happily support it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Mandarakis, please. The amendment, yes?
Yep. So firstly, to say I'm extremely proud of the work that Llewellyn and Sharper and other colleagues have done on getting us to this point. I and other Gillingham councillors will have seen the impact that the recent trend towards previous family homes becoming HMOs is having on our existing communities. Current objections have to be couched in planning terms which focus on the individual property and perhaps its neighbours. So we talk about parking or the fact that a dormer window might impact light or privacy on the property's direct neighbours, which, whilst important, they don't allow for a wider conversation about how the nature of HMO tenancies, short-term and transient, is steadily undermining the balance and stability of our neighbourhoods. Now, to be clear, it's not about vilifying tenants or landlords, it's about ensuring communities can thrive and that stable long-term residents aren't priced out or pushed out. No one is opposed to people renting homes, and no one is blaming individuals for trying to find affordable places to live. But we do need to ensure that whilst affordable rooms and accommodation are available for those who require it, they're not concentrated in areas solely because they have the cheapest suitable existing buildings. It needs to be alongside the person who's in all of our inboxes and has lived in their street for decades, knows all their neighbours and can be relied upon to spread the word and organise when something is happening that may affect the other residents of that street. Tenants of HMOs are often not intending to stay in that... Tenants of HMOs are often not intending to stay in that property for very long and are therefore much less interested if the local community garden is facing ASB and needs the residents to fundraise for better security, or to have conversations with their children and grandchildren about what a vital resource it is. They're also less likely to spot that the garden of the house on the end is looking unkempt and remember that the man who lived there was looking a bit frail last time and maybe someone should check on him, because they don't know their communities in the same way that those long-term residents do. And if you speak to the housing team, one of the most difficult challenges they face is finding affordable, temporary or long-term accommodation for larger families when they approach at risk of homelessness. The trend towards family homes being converted into HMOs also compounds that issue, making it even more difficult to house our most vulnerable families, not to mention pushing up prices for anyone else looking for a 3 or 4 bedroom rental. Article 4 allows us not to ban HMOs, but to manage them sensibly. Currently, under permitted development rights, a property can be converted into a HMO, housing up to 6 unrelated individuals without planning permission. This means the council, and by extension the community, don't have a say. By introducing it, we remove those automatic rights and bring HMO conversions into the planning system, which allows us to consider the broader impact on the community, housing supply and local cohesion before making the decision. Communities shouldn't be shaped by what can make a landlord the most money. They should be shaped by people, by residents and councillors working together to ensure our neighbourhoods are balanced, inclusive and sustainable.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mandarakis. Thank you, really. Councillor Lammas, can I check? I had a light on for you which has now gone off on the amendment. Thank you. I have no member indicating. I'll go back to Councillor Weller-Printer.
Clerk, just to thank any colleagues for support.
Thank you. Before we go to the vote, go back to Councillor Finch.
Yeah, we have no further comment, thank you.
Thank you. I can now remind members we are voting on the amendment to the motion. Can I have a show, please, for those in favour?
The amendment is carried.
The amendment is carried.
That now becomes a substantive.
That now becomes a substantive, and the members agree again for the substantive. Could I just have a show, please, for? Okay. That is now carried too. Thank you very much. Councillor Sands has withdrawn this motion at agenda item 8C, so we will move on to agenda item 8D. Call upon Councillor Maple to propose the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Mayor Clark. You wait for a consensus motion and hopefully two come along at once. That's my plan. We know here in this council chamber the importance to our local economy of tourism, of international trade, of the university and higher and further education sector, and all of those things are critically important to us here in Medway. Those things were aided tremendously when we had high-speed rail services stopping both at Ashford, but in particularly for our community at Ebbsfleet. Understandably, as so many things did in 2020, the train stopped. Or it didn't stop, and that's the problem we're going to talk about tonight. The problem for our community, and actually for the whole region of Kent and Medway, is that where everything else has come back to a level of normality, changed in some ways because of that global pandemic, Ashford and Ebbsfleet international stations do not currently have international trains stopping there. Something which is undermining our ability to grow our economy in all of those sectors and more, as I spoke about a moment ago. A couple of weeks ago, we had a very rare occurrence. We had a situation where myself, Jeremy Kite, Conservative leader, Noel Ovenden, Independent leader, Lyndon Kemcaron, Reform leader, agreed on something. And it was this, because we all know, despite our sometimes huge political differences, occasionally there is something which every politician in an area needs to get behind, and that's this. This is not new to this chamber. Over a year ago, I had a public question on this matter, and I'm pleased to say that we've seen the petition, the public petition, and I want to pay a particular tribute to the Bring Back Eurotrains campaign, led by people, some people who love trains, but lots of people who love good quality jobs, a thriving economy, and making sure that we can tell the rest of Europe and the rest of the world the wonderful story of both Medway and the wider region of Kent. So the motion tonight, which I'm hoping will receive cross-party unanimous support, will do three things. It will send a very clear, unambiguous message that our council, one of the two upper-tier authorities in our region, support this important campaign. That we will write to the Secretary of State and the Rail Minister, and I have to say, I know that both of those are supportive of this campaign. We heard from the Rail Minister on the morning of the visit, and write to, in particular, the Office of Rail and Road, who are actually the key decision maker at this point. In the same way that some of us became unsurprised and shocked experts on airports, all of a sudden there's a few politicians across Kent and Medway who are becoming experts in sidings when it comes to train travel. And actually that capacity issue is a real and genuine one. And thirdly, it signs us up to work in partnership. As I said a moment ago, I was pleased to sign a memorandum of understanding with those 3 other council leaders and some other key stakeholders at that event. And it was a very clear public message to say, actually, we want to say, actually, not to government, although they're important in this process, to those new providers. And we're seeing news literally day after day of providers going, we are interested, we want to play our part. We had a conversation on this yesterday at Kent Leaders, hosted brilliantly by the team at the Corn Exchange. And at that, the point was well made. Actually, this all might mean that Eurostar, who have been dragging their heels, might come back to the table. And I say very clearly, whether it's Eurostar or a new provider, we've got to get that international train travel back to our community. So, Mayor Clark, I'm really pleased to be able to move this tonight, genuinely hoping for unanimous support, and we can send that clear message that Medway is open for business, Medway is open for tourism, Medway is open for our increasing education capacity here, particularly on a university campus, but we need to bring back Euro trains. Thank you, Mayor Clark.
Thank you. Is that supported? Councillor, do you wish to speak now or reserve the right? Thank you.
Hello. There you go. Thank you. I don't feel the need to reserve my right because I don't see this being controversial at all and would really welcome full support from everyone tonight. As a train driver, I'm pleased to second this motion. It's unusual for a train driver to want extra stops, especially during leaf-fall season. However, as a member of the ASLEF trade union and with our fellow rail trade unions, we are constantly campaigning to increase rail services and for a greater integrated transport system. There is evidence that increased rail services will directly reinvest into the local economy by £2.50 for every £1 invested. The social and economic benefits of Eurostar services, stopping again in Kent at both Ebbsfleet and Ashford, would have huge benefits for both those local economies and also into the wider Kent and Medway economy. We are not asking for a huge infrastructure project, though I'd welcome and would continue to campaign for more infrastructure investment into our local economy. The track is already there, the stations are already there, and the facilities needed are already there. All that's needed are the staff to facilitate the extra checks needed. This would create employment opportunities for both the local economies. We must embrace the European model where towns such as Lille are used as hubs for further travel and not necessarily having to travel all the way into Paris just to leave again. The economic benefits to Lille is clearly evident. Stopping at Ebbsfleet would help tourism across Medway and also the wider business economy that connectivity would bring to us in Medway. It is wrong that those affected by the building of the high-speed line now do not benefit from the promise that they were given that they would be able to travel themselves, but also that their local economy would benefit with train stopping from the continent, and we would be able to welcome those travelling from our European neighbours. I welcome full cross-party support and those that have joined the existing campaigners, including the trade unions, who have campaigned for these services to stop again in Kent ever since they stopped. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lemus.
We want to move an amendment, please.
Members, everybody got a copy of the amendment, please? Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Lemes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As members will see, the amendment is hardly worth the paper it is written on. It's a very small amendment, and it is entirely aimed. Very good. It is entirely aimed at a genuine attempt to actually put on paper the words of what the leader said in his speech to his emotion, that this is a genuine cross-party thing that was led by KCC from the event that he spoke about. I don't see anything controversial about this amendment whatsoever. It's just purely designed to be recognised as genuine cross-party so that if the government do make the decisions necessary to reinstate these international train services, then we can genuinely celebrate it in the spirit of which he intended, which is cross-party. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that supported? Councillor Finch?
That's supported, Mr. Mayor.
Do you wish to speak now or reserve your right?
I reserve my right.
Thank you. Come to debate. I can remind members it is on the amendment. Councillor Perfect.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And can I second the first part of what the Deputy Leader of the Reform UK Group, former Chief of Staff to the party chairman of the Conservative and Unionist Party, former Special Advisor within the Rishi Sunak government said about this being a pointless amendment, and therefore the Conservative opposition will be voting against this amendment, but I wish him very well. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Thank you. Councillor Mandarakis, this is speaking. Thank you, members. Councillor Mandarakis, have you withdrawn?
No, sorry, just give me 2 secs.
And a reminder, we're speaking to the amendments.
Yes. So I just wanted to say that the best thing about Reform UK being involved in this campaign is that it provided an opportunity while stuck on a train platform for Reform KCC to report to the press that they plan to raise council tax by 5%. I'm sorry if this upsets Councillor Lamas, but I can reassure him that I don't need a hug to make up after raising it.
Thank you, Councillor Lamas. Yes, your points.
Thank you. Just on a point of explanation, what was alleged was policy is not actually the policy of Kent County Council. They have made no decisions on council tax rates. They're just getting on with saving millions of pounds at the moment. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one of Councillor Spalding. A reminder, we are speaking to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is rather surprising to get an amendment coming like that, but whilst we're on the subject, I would remind Councillor Mandarakis and those over there that this Labour group wanted to increase council tax by 10% this year, but it was refused by its own government. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I come back now to Councillor Finch.
I have nothing else to add, thank you.
Thank you. Come back now to Councillor Maple. Oh, sorry. Apologies. Really, yeah. Come back to Councillor Lemes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We really hope that we can get cross-party support for this amended motion. Thank you.
And now, apologies, Councillor Maple as original proposer.
I'm a happy guy. I'm a peaceful guy. I hate to dash hope, but I'm going to in the next 3 minutes. I won't be supporting this amendment. I was very clear in the words that I used around the political consensus at that meeting that we had. But by changing this, and I'm sure this wasn't the intention of the deputy, I won't read his whole CV. I think the Leader of the Opposition did that very well. Thank you very much for that work. By putting in the cross-party campaign, you are de facto cutting out everybody else from the campaign that's not political. Supporting the campaign means it's supported by politicians, by the voluntary sector, by education, by business. But by putting in cross-party, you are actually disenfranchising. And I think Councillor Lamas, I'm not sure which political ideology you may be looking at this afternoon or this evening. I'm sure that wasn't your intention, and therefore I'll help you by not supporting this and making sure that we genuinely, as a Medway Council, send the message to say thank you and we support the campaign, which involves everybody, not just politicians. Thank you very much, Mayor Clark.
Thank you, Councillor. We now go to the vote. And a reminder, we're voting on the amendment. May I please have a show in favour of the amendment? Thank you. And may I have a show against the amendment? The amendment is lost. We now return to the substantive. May I ask if any member wishes to add anything further? Councillor Curry.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clark. I just wanted to add a couple of extra points here, because as here in Medway, we're not in KCC, if some people in the room think we might be. As Medway grows as a community over the next 15 years, within the lifespan of our local plan, certainly, we cannot simply rely on the car to move us around on its own. Congestion is already a huge problem for our communities and our economy and our environment. In the last 2 years, we've made significant progress to address this. Through our bus service improvement plan published last year, local cycling and walking infrastructure plan was published earlier this year. We have a really good cross-party active travel group that meets regularly, and we've just completed a consultation on our local transport plan. Already there are a number of journeys on buses that has increased significantly in the last 2 years, which is really encouraging. This growth is also reflected across the whole of the South East. And at the strategic level, we're working closely with Transport for the South East to address the issues of strategic transport at that level. And in our own council now, we've just employed a new senior planner with the responsibility for strategic transport. To suggest that the European travel can simply be done by car over the next 15 years or more, whatever, is fanciful, actually. We cannot ignore the value of our high-speed rail links at Ebbsfleet and Ashford. And as the value they bring to our communities and to our economy is so important, the work of the campaign to bring back Eurotrains is vital. This motion underpins our approach to these wider benefits, so I urge colleagues to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, the Conservative Group will support the motion. I think what's important to note here is that as LGR becomes a reality, Ebbsfleet will most likely be in a North Kent authority and therefore will be even more important to us. But also that connectivity between Ebbsfleet and Strood and Chatham and Rainham will also become really important. I think making sure we have our plans correct and that would allow us to track that extra inward investment and tourism. I just wonder whether the leader would agree with me that actually as an authority we need to find more money to spend on promoting Medway and the tourism and the culture. I believe the budget's only £50,000, which we spent with Kent County Council. But whether £50,000 gets you beyond first point. I was hoping that Councillor Lammas might have suggested that the trains be painted turquoise. A new livery for the trains stopping at Ebbsfleet, but maybe not. I think finally, anything that we can do that generates jobs and investment is something that we will support. Councillor Curry, just for a point of information, I don't think many of us go to Europe by car. I think most of us go either by Eurostar or maybe in a plane. But we're happy to support the motion tonight. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So just to add a couple of comments in support of this motion myself. Firstly, discussion around the frustrations resulting from the inefficiency of the current infrastructure. So knowing full well that the ability to travel more locally from my home and in the direction I wish to go could again be in place, I'm currently forced to do the opposite. And in fact, my children have made a game of, this is true, of recording how long it is from the time we often too slowly leave our home to the time we much more quickly zoom past the same roads on the train, having travelled into London, waited for a period of time just to travel back out again. And secondly, along with the frustration, irony and inconvenience, it always strikes me that there is a tremendous amount of expense, inefficiency and waste not just for my family, but for the businesses and industries who have to do the same. I too question how much is lost from our region by the need to travel always through our beautiful and historic county just to travel back in, and how much is lost by others in fact choosing to travel through and sadly not to return to visit, all of which Kent and specifically their Medway has to offer. A huge loss to them and to our economy and our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Golvin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to point out how useful this has been in the past, because I was asked to represent the council at a reception at the British Embassy in The Hague a little while back. I was able to leave home at 7:30 in the morning, travel up to Ebbsfleet. It took literally 2 minutes to go through all the paperwork, and I was in the departure lounge. And just after 12 o'clock, I was in The Hague. I mean, that's just a good example of the connectivity that we should be able to expect. And I think it is disappointing because Medway and Kent had to put up with all the disturbance of the high-speed line being built in the first place. And it's very disappointing that the one county that had to have all that disturbance is the county that doesn't benefit from it, and that's a real shame. So I think we should all be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no other members showing, so I will go back to Councillor Maple.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clark, and thanks for colleagues' support across the council chamber. I want to say 2 or 3 quick things before we move to the vote on this. It would be wrong of me to not take an opportunity, particularly from that amazing event that we had, to recognise we had ministers there, we had politicians from France. We also started the day with this most remarkable song and dance routine. I really genuinely hope somebody captured it and it's on YouTube somewhere. It is remarkable. I'm not so sure about some of the lyrics. It sounds like somebody from a council team gathered together some lyrics and pumped it into ChatGPT or something. But the dancers were amazing, and it kind of was a really stunning start to the day of a pretty historic coming together of people, as I say, who very rarely agree on anything. I think it's important to recognise that this is a quickly moving campaign. If you haven't signed the petition yet, and I say that to 59 of us here, I say that to 292,000 people we collectively represent. The petition is around 81,900 at the moment. If we can get it to 100,000, and I know other councils are making similar calls, we should do everything we can. It sends a clear message to those decision makers elsewhere who maybe are looking at lots of things that there is very strong support for this. So I'd encourage you to sign the petition if you haven't already. And it comes down to this, and just to pick up on a point that Councillor Lawrence raised, it is one of the things that's happened. It's not in my leader's report because there's a lot to cram into 10 minutes, but the situation with Visit Kent and locating Kent, it is difficult, and actually this decision, if this becomes into fruition, it will make a difference. As a council, we do spend more than that in other aspects of communications, etc., and I want to take a moment to thank Councillor Marhill for the work he's been doing, both on a cross-party basis with colleagues at Kent County Council and our officers as well. And in conclusion, let's send a very clear message to those operators, to the ORR, to government, that this council stands strong and united to say we must bring back Euro trains. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that agreed, members? Thank you. The motion is passed. Perhaps, Councillor, you'd be kind enough to circulate the details of that petition linked to members should they choose to.
I will do that probably in about 10 minutes and 30 seconds' time.
Agenda item 9, the Leader's Report. We now have 30 minutes to receive and debate the Leader's Report. May I call on the Leader to present? Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Mayor Clark. Always a pleasure to be able to deliver an update to Council on the activities of our Cabinet. our council and our community since we last met as a full council. It was an amazing day to be there starting the leg for Kent and Medway of the Baton of Hope. A really inspiring project, a project that all of us wish didn't have to exist, but is doing a tremendous amount of awareness raising when it comes to the issue of suicide prevention. And I want to take a moment to thank a cast list of thousands, both here in Medway, across Kent and across the country, who played their part in making sure that this event ran safely and smoothly. I had the privilege of starting the Medway and Kent leg and passing the baton to Megan, who had done a 26-hour talkathon on the issue of mental health and suicide at the Sunlight Centre. And every one of those baton bearers, including baton bearers who serve on this council, had their own reason for being there, and they were sharing that very publicly. I want to thank everybody who was involved. I want to thank Mid-Kent College for being great hosts, along with the Cruising Club, and of course Chatham Dockyard, Kent Fire and Rescue, our military colleagues, our volunteers, our security team, and our public health team, who went above and beyond. And it was great that my friend and deputy leader was able to say a few words at the close of the Medway leg of that. That charity's values are around compassion, integrity, and collaboration, and all of those were seen in abundance in Medway that day. Mayor Clark, since we last met, the wonders of everyone's favourite three-letter acronym, LGR, Local Government Reorganisation, continues at pace. Since we last met, colleagues will be aware, not least because the decision was called in, that we have proceeded to work on a option which was called 4D as part of the initial process. Following conversations, that has now proceeded to be 4D plus. We've made some minor refinements to that, and I thank colleagues across the region who have given their views. And I want to thank in particular Councillor Marhill for his work on this, and the team here at Medway, who have done a tremendous job in that work in a very quick way, certainly recognising that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to build the future of local government. As well as that work, we've held the Ignition event with other colleagues from across Kent. We've held cross-party meetings. We had Medway Matters Live, where Richard and I took questions on this issue specifically, and I was held to account very well indeed, and I thank Councillor Sands for his expert chairing of the Rural Liaison Board. It was a pleasure to come along and answer those questions from colleagues there. The consultation will be starting next year. There is an engagement programme which is being run collectively for the 14 councils through Canterbury, and I want to thank officers who are working on that. That work will continue, and of course the next time we meet as a council in this chamber will be a special meeting of an advisory basis to inform Cabinet of Council's views, and I look forward to hearing those in due course. Since we last met, we had the Historic Places panel visit Medway. That is something which is quite rare, so we were lucky to have them here. We spent 2 days in their company. I want to thank the Leader of the Opposition, Cabinet members, councillors, our MPs, who were involved in that process. It had a specific focus on Gillingham and Rainham, and I think that's right and appropriate if you look at some of the work that's going on there, from the Gillingham Task Force to putting Rainham first and Rainham reimagined. There is lots of good things we want to shout about. The informal feedback was positive, and I look forward to seeing the report as it comes through from the panel in due course. And again, as always with this administration, we will be transparent and share that report widely. Mayor Clark, this is a wonderful place. People hear me say that every time, and it's made a wonderful place by the sheer variety of things that happen. So since we last met as a council, what's been going on in our community? We've had the Summer Reading Challenge, more than 3,500 participants, and you and I, Mayor Clark, shared a collective poem on dogs, which was good to hear from that fantastic poet who came along and inspired our young people and our not-so-young people who were there with us. Talking of poetry, we had the Medway Peace Poem as part of our very reflective VJ commemorations. We've had the 10th anniversary of Medway Plus, a great organisation that does amazing work across the Medway towns. We had the 5th anniversary of the Medway Development Company, and it was always good to have that fabulous cliche of a politician wearing a high vis and a hard hat. Mine wasn't red and didn't say build, baby, build, but it was great to see the work that's going on there, and importantly, the work that's going to be coming, particularly with the challenging site on the former Civic Centre site in Strood. We had the International Dance Festival with participants from more than 60 countries coming to Medway Park, bigger than ever before. And of course, we had thousands of dancers, but we've got one particular dancer who we're all supporting, Medway's own Balvinda Sopal, Dancing with Julian. Make sure you're sending your 5 votes every Saturday. Keep dancing. Some of you could probably keep dancing more than others. We've had the publication of the latest child-friendly Medway annual report. Incredibly proud of the work that happens there. More than 120,000 interventions. You can fill Wembley Stadium and have a couple of spare priest fields all at the same time. Thanks to Amy and the whole team. We raised the St George's flag on a flagpole to support the World Cup winning Red Roses, and thanks to the teams that came along to support that happening. We had the Waverley back on the River Medway. We had the Royal Engineers Freedom March through Rochester. We had the opening of the inspiring artwork at Rats Bay in Chatham, funded by Section 106 contributions and by the Dutch enemies. They're not enemies anymore, they're our friends. And as I said, we have more friendships and less warships than we've had with the Dutch in the past. We had the 25th anniversary of the Rochester Farmers Market. We had the raising of the Battle of Britain flag at Gun Wharf on a flagpole. A new banking hub being confirmed for Raynham, that's fantastic news. Medway hosted the Kent Charity Awards at the Corn Exchange. We had Super Saturday in Chatham with nearly 30,000 people. We had Love Gillingham, thousands of people coming out to celebrate that, some body slamming action in a wrestling ring, don't worry. We had the Sticks and Stones Festival literally next door from where we are right now tonight. We had, for the first time ever, Taste of the Caribbean coming to the Great Lines. Great to see that happening. Rochester Cathedral had a plane. It had a plane inside for a whole month. Incredible to have that heritage and history of Shorts Brothers. We had the fantastic Raynham Community Awards, again recognising the individuals who have made a really positive difference to the community there. We've had Medway Pride, the Isle of Grain Festival, the Medway Culture Club Festival, all bringing our communities together. We've had the Thomas Aveling events happening, again commemorating one of Medway's own. Medway Go, supporting more than 3,000 children. And I'm so proud that we don't have to have individuals writing to government. We've got government confirming that funding is there for the next 3 years. We've had the Medway Mile, run by thousands once again. And of course, we had 2 teams from Medway in the first round proper of the FA Cup. And I wish both Gillingham and Chatham Town all the best for the second round when they both get there before we next meet as a council. Thank you, Mayor Clark.
Thank you. Move to 8, Councillor Perfect.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and can I thank the leader for his report. And can I firstly start by associating myself with certainly his words about the historic England Places visit, which I was pleased to be a part of with him, Cabinet members and others. And I think it was a really successful visit from Ben Derbyshire and the team, who I'm sure their report's going to be superb in terms of its outcomes. Mr Mayor, I'm pleased that the leader mentioned the 3 letters of LGR, because it allows me to mention £105,000. Let me repeat it again, because I've repeated it in this room pretty regularly recently. £105,000. That's the cost of the Labour vanity project into their model for local government reorganisation, which still does not have the support of any other council in Kent publicly. And how do we find out about that figure? That's as a result of this Conservative opposition, not as a result of the independent group whose chief whip backed Labour spending this money, and not the silent Reform UK group, who were too busy recruiting former members of the Boris Johnson leadership campaign and one of his biggest cheerleaders in Kent to their ranks. Of course, that former Prime Minister that simultaneously, supposedly, they despise. That's £105,000, which could be spent on our community, festivals, green spaces, Christmas events, or to put it simply, as Councillor Tijan outlined earlier, to reduce the amount of money this council will have to borrow in order to balance this year's budget. It's important that I make this point, because as we heard on Councillor Tijan's motion, the council will be borrowing £18 million this year on top of £20 million last year, just to pay for day-to-day spending through exceptional financial support. And that's £105,000 that will have to be paid back. Maybe not tomorrow, but possibly by other residents around Kent. And £105,000 may not be a lot in terms of the total revenue budget, but what it does signify is it shows that this Labour administration are happy to borrow, borrow, borrow. And why? Because it will be paid in the future rather than today. On a week when the Conservative Party is celebrating the 100th anniversary of Baroness Thatcher, we would always say socialists run out of other people's money. Mr Mayor, the Labour Chancellor has confirmed this week that she is considering more tax rises to plug her £50 billion self-created black hole. The people of Medway better hope that the Chancellor has better ideas, because just like under their colleagues in Medway, nothing is safe, not your job, your savings or your pension. Only the Conservatives, under new leadership, will support business, control welfare and live within our means to build a stronger economy. And that is what we are proud to do and fight for every single day. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Pearce.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The Independent Group is proud to be representing the Hoo Peninsula. We represent a wonderful, beautiful, fertile and amazing place, home to a wide range of protected habitats, wildlife and top-grade productive farmland. We have the best and most versatile land, only found in a few places in England. This is our green and pleasant land, Mr Mayor, something we need to protect and cherish. Last month, our farming heritage was celebrated at the 174th ploughing match held at Beluncle Farm in Hoo, organised by the Gravesend and Rochester Agricultural Association. Special thanks go to the Batchelor family for hosting this year's event. The high-quality fruit of the Hoo Peninsula was recently showcased on a TV commercial for Marks & Spencer, grown by the Mite family of Cliff. Their strawberries are second to none, and I enjoyed a punnet at the High Housestow Village Fete recently. Mr Mayor, we have some excellent news concerning Lodge Hill, a valuable ancient woodland and precious scrub habitat. Recent surveys from the county's leading bird conservation group shows nightingales at Lodge Hill have increased significantly in number since 2012. Lodge Hill was designated a site of special scientific interest in 2013 because it contained just over 1% of the national population, and we now have over 2%. The Independent Group is proud of our nightingales and this news. It was the right decision not to build 5,000 houses on the site, and I very much hope those in this room tonight who supported that idea deeply regret wanting to destroy a nationally protected bird sanctuary. Mr Mayor, it's been a great few months for the peninsula. Progress is being made on UNESCO Natural World Heritage Site bid. Hoo and Upner were recently visited by broadcaster Alexander Armstrong and environmentalist Chris Packham as part of filming Channel 5's Perfect Pub Walks. Alexander and Chris explored the Hoo shoreline and the boat graveyard, of which there are vessels from the Dunkirk evacuation. I'm also delighted, Mr Mayor, to report a rare chalk stream has been formally designated by Natural England. The River Wain, between Chatham and Wainscott, is one of around 200 chalk streams in the world. England holds about 85% of them. Mr Mayor, we are proud to represent the Hoo Peninsula, and we thank you for listening. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Finch.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We thank the Leader for his report. Firstly, I'd like to officially welcome Councillor Lammas to the Reform UK group. It's great to have another strong local voice joining us. Someone who, like the rest of us at Medway Reform, believes in putting the people of Medway first. I also want to say on behalf of our group that we're completely condemn the disgusting attack on the Labour Party office. Political disagreement should never cross into intimidation or violence. Everyone who steps forward to represent their community deserves to do so safely, regardless of party. Mr Mayor, later this evening we'll be discussing the review of the Constitution. I think it's worth highlighting that despite being the newest and smallest group on this council, Medway reform has had more motions passed with cross-party support than any other group since we were formed back in February this year. That's something we're proud of because it shows that when the focus is on residents, not party politics, this council can work together to get things done. So as we approach that item, I just urge colleagues to remember that the rules we set should serve the people of Medway, not any political convenience. Finally, Mr. Mayor, whatever our political colours, we're all proud to be Medway, proud of our towns, proud of our heritage and the people who make this place what it is. We've heard a lot of noise recently about flags and symbolism and have recently discovered, through a Freedom of Information request, that the council received just 27 inquiries out of 292,000 residents. That's inquiries, not even complaints. Let's keep that in proportion. The overwhelming majority of Medway residents simply want pride in place, decent services and respect for our shared community. Medway reform will always stand with that majority, the silent, sensible residents who love where they live and expect their council to show the same pride, fairness and community spirit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Murray.
Mayor Clark, really just to set your minds at rest, Tories, about LGR, poor fellow. We allowed money in the budget because we knew that there would be a cost associated with putting in a proper proposal for Medway. And our proposal is a future-proof proposal. It takes into account all of the things that are happening. It tries to right some of the old boundary wrongs that have been there since the 1970s. It looks at the way the towns are changing. It looks at population growth, economic growth, health needs, health inequalities, all of the things that we need to be working with as a whole system. So I just wanted to reassure you, Councillor Perfect, it's a well-intentioned way of spending that money. We won't get another chance for 50 years, probably, to put ourselves in a strong position. So I think actually we owe it to everybody in Medway to do the very best that we can, to give our officers a chance to make sure that their voices are heard with financial expertise, all the things that we need to say about social care, the way we're going to make things work, the transition. You can be very assured, and KPMG have already said this, that the submission that we're putting in is a rock-solid submission that covers all the bases. We're not complacent, it's our government, but we're still giving Medway the best chance. And I don't think you need to worry.
Councillor Curry.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clark. I just wanted to pick up on a couple of things. The leader reflected in his talk just now on the pride of Medway and also the future of Medway, which are kind of tied together really in how we maintain that and stuff like that. And Councillor Pearce just referred to the North Kent Marshes and the Who area as well. So, and colleagues will note that there was a motion earlier on the peninsula that was withdrawn earlier. So I just wanted to cover a couple of issues around that if I can. In particular about the pride we have in our fabulous internationally important landscape and wildlife areas on the North Kent Marshes. Mention was made of the UNESCO World Heritage Site bid. This is for the East Coast Flyway down the whole of the east coast of England, where we are now a partner in that bid. The work has been done, the appraisals are all ready to go in. A last bit of work's being done by government, and then it will be going off to UNESCO next year for consideration. So we're very excited about that, and we're working hard along with our partners all the way up the East Coast to bring that to reality. In our local plan, the iterative process of the implementation and delivery of the local plan is already underway. We've just had a workshop with partners on the North Kent Marshes, including the development companies, the English Natural England, Kent Wildlife Trust, RSPB, Environment Agency. We've all met together to talk about how we maximise the benefits of what we've got out there and minimise the impacts of any developments taking place. There's a Chalk to Coast project that's underway at the moment, landowner-led, which covers the land between the North Downs and the coast along Kent, and we are part of that, and there's a meeting coming up in November for that as well. We're delivering Deangate as well, which is an ongoing process. The Kent and Medway Local Nature Recovery Strategy is also about to be published in November, and that has a big coastal element in it as well. We're working very closely with the internal drainage boards, particularly on the North Kent, on the wise use of water project and how we manage the water resources that are really now quite scarce in the marshland areas. And finally, of course, there's the wonderful Who's Who projects. So we're very much running a partnership as Medway. We're facilitating that work in many aspects in order to bring forward the security of those fabulous landscapes and the wildlife biodiversity of our marshes and the Who Peninsula. This is a long-term view that goes beyond LGR with our partnering, and we've talked with our neighbouring authorities about making it work. It's part of our current policy, it's part of our future policy, and in order to preserve these world-renowned areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. I have time for one more member. Councillor Stamp, you were first to indicate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. The Baton of Hope is the biggest suicide prevention initiative in the UK. It started with two fathers, Mike McCarthy and Steve Phillip, coming together through their grief of losing their sons to suicide. The charity raises awareness of suicide prevention, improving access to information and services so as to prevent suicide. It acts as a national umbrella resource body to promote action to improve understanding, services and responses as a forum to bring about change and hope, and it is a catalyst for initiatives such as the Workplace Charter, Safe Havens and Mental Health First Aiders. The Baton of Hope has a simple pledge for organisations to remove and eradicate the stigma around mental health in the workplace, increase awareness of suicide, improve and do our best to save lives, make suicide awareness, support and prevention a workplace priority. This year's Baton of Hope tour travelled to 20 locations, where Medway was one of the places lucky enough to be chosen for the baton to pass through. I was honoured to be chosen as a baton bearer for the Baton of Hope when it passed through Medway. The reason I applied to be a baton bearer is because suicide is very close to my heart. Firstly, because I've lost 3 friends to suicide. Sorry. One being a close friend. Although it's over 27 years ago and he lost his life, the vivid memory of being told what and how it happened and the emotion I felt will stay with me for life. I also work for the NHS Medway and Swale Home Treatment Team, where we treat patients in crisis. Although our team puts all available interventions in place, sadly we still lose patients to suicide. I'm also aware that suicide has affected many of you here in this room today, whether it be a relative, a friend, a work colleague, your neighbour. Suicide affects everyone. Can't believe I'm getting so emotional. Sorry, I apologise. It destroys lives and does not discriminate. We all have a responsibility. Last year, there were over 6,000 suicides registered in England and Wales, which is a rate of 11.4 suicides per 100,000 people. Tragically, it is also the biggest killer for the under-35s age group in this country. For generations, there has been stigma around suicide and mental health. Common labels that are applied to people who have ended their lives, such as they are selfish, they took the easy way out, are not true and need to be dispelled to end the stigma. Stigma leads to shame and a reluctance to seek help. We need to be more open in our conversations, look out for our loved ones, friends, work colleagues and neighbours, and have that conversation. My door is always open for a chat for anyone suffering with their mental health. Believe that there is hope, there is a reason to stay, that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. I come back to Councillor Maple.
Thank you, Mayor Clark, and thank you, Councillor Stamp, for sharing your story both tonight and I know on that powerful Monday for Medway. And the reality is there will be hundreds and hundreds of stories like that across our community. That's why the baton of hope mattered. That's why I'm so incredibly proud of every baton bearer and everybody who made that event such a success. Thank you again for sharing that tonight. I know it wouldn't have been easy, but you heard the response, and the response from people watching online, I know, will be the same. Moving on to the other matters that were brought up within my report. It's worth recognising, of course, that the opposition, long-standing position they have is not the same map that we have when it comes to the issue of local government reorganisation. So I'm sure they will take every opportunity to make politics, because that's part of their role. But it is worth reminding them that this, for the biggest change in local government, arguably forever, because of the potential next steps of devolution as well, is 36 pence per resident is what we're spending on this additional work. And if you think that's not value for money, you might want to consider, and I appreciate not every member was here at the time, but that advice from professionals and experts is still £30,000 cheaper than a Japanese roundabout in the middle of Raynham. Compare and contrast. Councillor Finch, I'm sorry to say that although I agree with you that I think everybody in this chamber should be proud to be Medway, we know there's one councillor that doesn't even think Medway exists, that isn't proud to be Medway because he doesn't think it exists. I'm sure he's happy to receive the allowance from the council for the community that doesn't exist every month. Maybe he isn't, I don't know. But I would agree that everybody should be proud to be Medway. I'm incredibly proud, and I hope we make even more of that legacy between now and the end of this council. Finally, from me, Councillor Pearce, I would agree that actually the Hoo Peninsula, like all parts of Medway, is doing amazing things. And it was great to join a number of colleagues and a number of residents to speak about the local plan and community infrastructure group and thank them for the work they've been doing in August. Mayor Clark, this is an amazing place. I am proud to be Medway, and I'm proud to be Medway every single day.
Thank you, Councillor. Moving now to members' questions. We have 20 minutes to deal with the 3 questions listed on the agenda from members of the Council. Any questions not dealt with this evening will receive written responses instead. Answers to questions must not exceed 3 minutes in length, please. Councillor Tijan, may I please have your question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The budget is the responsibility of full council. Can the leader of the council please confirm whether the administration has a deliverable plan to eliminate the need for exceptional financial support within the next 3 years, and if so, how?
Councillor Maple.
Thank you, Mayor Clark, and thank you, Mayor Tijan, for your question. It probably won't surprise you to hear some of the things that I may have said in response to your motion earlier on. Firstly, we have a plan, the Financial Improvement and Transformation Plan, known as the FIT Plan. We're working through that at the moment. We're working hard. Cabinet members in particular are speaking to senior officers every single week about that. That conversation is happening. We have that collective conversation as a team of 25, this corporate management team and the Cabinet as well. You may not have been tuned in. I think you may have been in the room, actually. I can't remember. Apologies. Certainly at one of the most recent cabinets, I've made it clear it is my ambition, and it is a challenging ambition, to get to the point of not requiring EFS for this coming February. That is going to be a challenge. And we're working hard on that. And again, Cabinet members know that. Some of those things, of course, we don't know. We know there's regrettably been a slight slip in when we will get the settlement. We were expecting that originally at the end of November. It's likely to be closer to the end of December. Not quite as late as when Michael Gove delivered it on the 23rd of December, I hope, but I think not far away from there. And of course, that will give us a lot of the information to tell us where we will be. Now, of course, because this is a multi-year settlement for the first time in a long time, it will look and feel quite different to perhaps settlements we've had in the recent times. So we're absolutely working through that. We continue to be transparent. We continue to work closely with our colleagues at CITFA. And perhaps this would be an opportunity as well, perhaps just to put on record my thanks to Katie Durkin, who has now gone on to pastures new. She's been an outstanding finance officer, but since our last meeting of full council has taken up a new role. And she's been instrumental both in working with CITFA, with cabinet colleagues, and indeed scrutiny and others. So I'd want to place on record my thanks to her as well. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Councillor Pearce, please may I have your question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As written, please. Thank you.
Councillor Maple.
Thank you very much indeed, Mayor Clark, and thank you, Councillor Pearce, for your question. You will appreciate, I probably won't go into lots of granular detail on this. There is a reason why Councillor Pearce has asked this question. I think I'd say a couple of things. Around the phraseology within the question of senior officer. Now, I used to be a civil servant, and you can be an administrative assistant, and then you can be a senior administrative assistant. That doesn't mean, in the terms of local government, that you would be a senior officer. I think most people would accept that a senior officer would be a member of the Chief Executive's corporate management team. The individual in question for the incident that I'm aware of does have the word senior in their job title, but respectfully is not a senior officer. Clearly, there has been a situation that has been dealt with through internal HR policies, and I am content as leader of the council that that has dealt with the issue that has risen Councillor Pearce's question. And I thank him for clarifying with officers some of the wording behind it. I think that's helped to give me this answer tonight.
Thank you. Councillor Finch, please may I have your question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In your recent video about Operation Raise the Colours, you said, "We will be looking to remove these flags as soon as is practically possible." Given that these flags were not raised by the council, but by local residents celebrating Medway's maritime heritage and national pride, values shared by people of every background in Medway, could the leader explain why this administration believes removing these expressions of community spirit will knit our community together, as he claimed, rather than risk dividing residents further? Thank you.
Councillor Maple.
Thank you very much indeed, Mayor Clark, and thank you, Councillor Finch, for your question. I'm not sure if you've had a report back from, I would say, an excellent public meeting organised by the team at St Margaret's Church on the issue of flags. I think we had a public question, asked the same question as he did there tonight, and he got a similar answer. On this particular issue, let me be really, really explicitly clear for the avoidance of doubt. If you put a flag onto a council lamppost, you are breaking the law. You are breaking section 132 of the 1980s Highways Act. Breaking the law is not acceptable. If the Reform UK party think breaking the law is acceptable, then that's a matter for them. I think that's not a sensible position for community leaders to be saying, we support breaking the law. And if Councillor Finch wants to stand up tonight and say he doesn't support breaking the law, I'm happy to give way at the end if he wants to give a point of personal explanation. I was pleased to hear the support for that position on illegal flags from the Leader of the Opposition, and he highlighted an excellent article by Kevin Hollinrake, which I think deals with this issue in a sensible way. And I'd encourage all councillors from all political persuasions to read that article. I think it deals with some of the issues at the heart of this. So let's be very clear as well. This is not some grassroots movement. We know, because residents have shared information with us, that it's 6 people. This is 6 people out of 292,000. From that perspective, that is not a grassroots movement. And perhaps Councillor Finch would also want to reflect on the fact, if this is all about binding our community together, knitting our community together, why does Operation Raise the Colours on its social media always tag in Stephen Yaxley Lennon, the multiple times convicted criminal who is seen, in my view, as a far-right fascist? And I would not want to see anything involving him. Now, again, if Reform UK are happy to support Stephen Yaxley Lennon and his like, I think that says a lot more about them than it does about the vast majority of Medway residents.
Thank you, Councillor. We come now to agenda item 11. Sorry.
Fascist.
I defer to the legal officer. Yeah. I'm advised the appropriate response is through the Council Conduct Committee. Thank you, Councillor Emmis. The advice is to raise that through the appropriate Council Conduct route. Thank you very much. We come now to agenda item 11, the Medway Youth Justice Plan 2025-2026. Councillor Price, would you like to make the proposal?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to move we approve the Medway Youth Justice Plan for 2025-26. It's been discussed and was approved at Children and Young People's Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and the Cabinet have also supported it. Now you might ask, what is the Medway Youth Justice Service? I commend to you the very helpful box on page 67 of our agenda, which describes the Youth Justice Partnership Board and Youth Justice Services in children and young people friendly language as follows. We're here to help you navigate away from crime and towards success. The Youth Justice Service is a team of friendly adults who are here to support you if you found yourself in trouble with the law. We're not here to judge you. Our job is to help you understand what happened, make things right, and support you to make better choices moving forward. Now, if someone was hurt by what happened, we'll make sure they feel safe, listened to, and supported. We will work with your family too, so everyone gets the help they need and you can build strong, positive relationships at home. Our goal is simple, to help you stay out of trouble and build a brighter future for yourself. Mr. Mayor, there are named officers on the Youth Justice Board, which includes council officers, the NHS, police and probation, who are leading task and finish subgroups. Now, the subgroups are prevention of offending, and that's Celia Buxton, victim support, and that's been led by the police, skilled and effective youth justice services, Kelly Cogger, disproportionality, which is a long word, it means making sure the system is fair, equitable and inclusive. This is jointly led by our AD for Education and SEND, Celia Buxton, and the Kent and Medway Police Reducing Harm and Child-Centred Policing Manager, and they're both the joint chairs of the Youth Justice Board, Medway Youth Justice Board. Last but not least, the last subgroup is probably the most important one, Young People's Voice, and that's led by Nicoletta Stangu, Head of Corporate Parenting and Youth Justice Service. Mr. Mayor, I so move Medway's Youth Justice Plan for 2025 to 2026. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Is that supported? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. And thank you very much, Adam, because I know that you and the team have done an enormous amount of work on this. You might think that this is a sort of bit of an overkill document because we have to do it every year, but that's for a really important reason. Stopping young people from getting into trouble is a huge priority for this council. Indeed, it's a priority for our whole community. And the things that Councillor Price has just told us about are absolutely correct. It was really good at the Health and Wellbeing Board to have everybody together, to have the police together, to have our Assistant Director of Children's Services, friends from the Youth Service, all able to tell the board about the way that they're working together, to show that actually when we've got families whose parents have been involved in criminal activity before, our children's services are there, wrapping around the young people, trying to prevent them from getting into crime, because intergenerational crime is a real problem. The police have really worked very hard in Kent, actually, to build our child-centred youth team, and I had the very great pleasure at the Drug and Alcohol Prevention Conference just last week, where our theme was young people. And again, we had everybody together talking about how we can prevent young people getting into addiction, how we can protect them from county lines, how we can make sure that at the very earliest stage they understand the bad things that can happen if you get involved with drugs, alcohol, illegal tobacco. So the Youth Justice Plan has changed over the years. It's become much more interactive, much more live than it used to be, and really involves so many partners as well as our council staff. So I do commend it to people. Don't think it's just a paper document. Don't think it's just a routine. It's a reflection and a plan of how we're going to make sure that children who are in danger of getting into trouble or who have been into trouble get the chance to realise their potential.
Thank you. Councillor Finch.
Sorry, I have no comment. Sorry, it's not working.
You. Councillor Joy.
It's come on again, please.
Yeah, Councillor Joy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This Medway Youth Justice Plan in the Children to Young People and Overview and Scrutiny Committee, lots of questions were asked by our members on there and also other members on that committee, and making sure that it is fit for purpose and making sure that the priorities of this is to try and stop things happening that in the long run are going to cost the taxpayers in this country a lot more money. Prevention will save money, and it will also make better outcomes for all the children that are at risk within Medway. And then we did look at also disproportionality, not just on ethnic backgrounds, but also on financial backgrounds, because children, regardless of their ethnicity, in a poorer family are more likely to end up as a statistic within our prison system. And if they start at a young age going into the prison system, they're likely to follow that into adulthood. So we're fully supportive of this Medway Youth Justice Plan because it is a plan to try and stop before it happens, and working with the young people and working with their families to show them that they've got the support and they've got people that are willing to listen and to help and guide and give them a different option from the one they may have done on a number of different periods in times gone by. So, as I said, we will be supporting this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Perfect.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I don't have a lot more to add than the excellent comments there from Councillor Joy. I just wanted to second what the Deputy Leader said and actually add certainly my thanks and I think probably the whole chamber to the new Chief Superintendent, Andy Chapman, who's doing a really superb job actually bringing really a child sort of centred focused approach, certainly from her career, having worked in this space, to really her engagement, certainly in Medway, certainly that I've seen and recognised in my regular meetings that I've had since her appointment with her and the Chief Inspector, which I think is really welcome. And the second thing I just wanted to say is obviously noting that the board is obviously now chaired by our fantastic Assistant Director for Education and SEND, Celia Buston, who does a really superb job. And I think you can see from page 6 here that the wheel bringing together all of those stakeholders together, which I think she does exceptionally well. And I think, I just wanted to note that in the council chamber, because I think it's important that is recognised. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. No other member? Go back to Councillor Price.
Yes, thank you, members who have spoken for your support, and I'll be looking to arrange like another Meet the Professionals evening, which has gone down very well in the past, because it does provide members with an added opportunity to be able to not only just meet the professionals, but to hear from some of the young people whose lives have been turning around through volunteering, etc. Thank you very much. I so move.
Thank you. Is that agreed, members? Thank you very much. Come now to agenda item 12, Care for Medway Feasibility Study Outcomes, Build and Operate a Care Home. Before I ask Councillor Murray to make a proposal, the Council has recommended to resolve to exclude the press and public during consideration of any information contained in the exempt appendix to this item as set out in item 21 on page 311 of the agenda, on the basis that the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. However, we will proceed to debate this item in open session unless any member indicates they wish to refer to information contained in the blue pages, at which point I will ask the Council to vote on excluding the press and public. If we do resolve to exclude the press and public, I will ask that the public gallery is cleared and that the live stream broadcast is paused during the closed debates. Is any member so minded to bring up anything on the blue papers? No. Thank you. Councillor Murray, would you like to make your proposal?
Mayor Clark, I hope that all members will feel able to support Care for Medway. And as you'll see from the report, there's been a great deal of careful consideration leading up to our decision this evening. And I wish to place on record my thanks to council officers in adult social care, especially commissioning, for their enthusiasm and commitment to this important project, to my colleagues on the Cabinet who've been very supportive, and to scrutiny, who made some really useful suggestions. I can see that there are lots of people on the council who think that this is something worth supporting. If you're thinking it's a bold step, it definitely is. And if you're concerned that we can't afford to do it, let me tell you, we can't afford not to. And here's why. The biggest group in our population who are growing at this time are the over 65s, closely followed by over 85s. And since the greatest risk of developing dementia is ageing, we're struggling to accommodate our residents who sadly become complex dementia patients needing specialist residential care. Just now, we have people waiting every week to find care home places they need, casting them and their families, and we don't want to do this, into stressful circumstances, while they wait for a safe placement, and we leave the council exposed to an increasingly fraught market. The new care home will disrupt the market, set a gold standard for social care, and help us to make the whole system work more effectively by strengthening our ability to support hospital discharge and, importantly, continue to work with other providers who help us accommodate our residents. The new care home will be big and beautiful, a sustainable building of the highest standards, because we're mindful that we're building not a facility but a home for those who live there. It will see Innovation Park Medway put to good use as a great location. We'll have 40 complex dementia beds and 40 short-term beds and facilities for enablement, helping those who can return home regain their independence. There'll be excellent conditions for staff, space for training and development, and the use of assistive technology with a partnership with Kindy. And we're going to enhance care and security. And of course, unlike in the past, we'll have a strategy for depreciation and refurbishment. Furthermore, the council will be protected against the failure of other homes because we'll be able to confidently step in to pick up anyone who gets displaced, which we're not in a position to do now. I know it's got to come out of the ground, and I know that all of these things won't work immediately, but it can happen quickly, it can happen at pace, and we're tooled up to do that. This proposal also gives social care the economic respect it deserves as one of our biggest growth areas and job creation, a profession whose lovely human faces will never be replaced by AI, but one that can benefit from technological change and is indeed capable of leading it. Our staff know how to run things, They share our ambitions for those we care for. They deserve our support to use their skills and expertise to care for Medway.
Thank you, Councillor. Is that supported? Councillor MacDonald?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Murray. I just want to add a few more points to Councillor Murray's excellent proposal. I am pleased to formally second Councillor Theresa Murray's proposal this evening and to offer my wholehearted support for what is, without question, one of the most important and compassionate projects Medway has considered in recent years. The Care for Medway feasibility study sets out a clear and credible path for us to build and operate a council-owned care home, a facility designed first and foremost around the needs of our residents rather than the demands of the marketplace. This is a project that speaks directly to the heart of our community. It recognises that too many of our older residents, particularly those living with dementia, struggle to find high-quality care close to home. Too often, families are separated by distance at precisely the time when closeness matters most. We can and must do better for the people we serve. This proposal... Oh, hang on.
Sorry, members. Can I just go for a comfort break, please? Thank you. Thank you, members. Just to advise, obviously, for the purpose of the live stream, the Deputy Mayor was unwell and, as a precaution, has been taken to hospital, but pleased to say he exited the building under his own steam with the paramedics. And thank you, colleagues, for your assistance and indulgence at this time. Given the late hour, given the developments, given the situation that we are in, and the fact that we do have an exceptional council coming up in November, the proposal tonight, which I will be putting to you all, is that we would adjourn agenda item number 12 because we hadn't formally seconded it. Because of a statutory reason, we will take agenda item number 13, the annual review of the school place planning strategy, and it is proposed, as we believe it to be uncontentious, that Councillor Price and the supporter will nominate, will propose and second, and that if members are agreeable, we will agree that. And then I will ask you members also to agree that we would then adjourn the remainder of the meeting to be heard at our special council in November. So I am making that as a formal proposal to the floor, and could I ask members to indicate whether they are in agreement with that or disagree? May I have a show for agree, please, for course of action? Thank you. It's unanimous. We will do that. Therefore, in accordance with that agreement, I will formally adjourn agenda item number 12 until the next meeting. Thank you, Councillor Murray, for your indulgence for this. And I will call on Councillor Price to move agenda item 13.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Formally move. Thank you.
Is that supported? Yes. Thank you. Members, is that agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Members, I will now move to formally adjourn the remainder of tonight's council agenda until the special council meeting in November. Is that agreed?
Agreed. Okay.
The meeting is now formally adjourned. Please do feel free to leave. Obviously, the mace bearer is not available to remove, so we... okay, sorry. We are back on formality. Thank you.
okay then. You managed to get it.